You're watching the Night Report at 10. Your news and weather headlines start right now.
Today, Russia began an attack on Ukraine.
I cannot believe it's happening, really. I just hope that some people in Russia may see this and just stand against the Putin and the war.
This aggression cannot go unanswered.
Russian warheads have rained down on Ukraine for the past 24 hours. The president in hiding.
According to our information, the enemy has marked me as target number 1. My family is target number 2. They want to destroy Ukraine politically by destroying the head of state.
Russians have infiltrated Ukraine from all sides. The violence has already resulted in the deaths of hundreds of Ukrainian military and civilians. President Biden responding with harsh sanctions on Russian banks and elites. Isabel Rosales reports.
Lights out as darkness falls over Lviv in western Ukraine. The silence, an eerie contrast to a day marked by sirens and explosions as Russia launched a large-scale invasion.
This is a dangerous moment for all of Europe.
Back home, President Joe Biden following through on his promise to impose crushing economic sanctions, including blocking 4 major Russian banks from the U.S. financial system.
Some of the most powerful impacts of our actions will come over time as we squeeze Russians' access to finances and technology.
The Pentagon now ordering 7,000 more troops to Europe.
Our forces are not going to Europe to fight in Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies and reassure those allies in the East.
Across Ukraine, the impacts of war felt deeply. Russian forces attacking several apartment buildings and setting a military school on fire.
You wake up in a totally new reality at 5 a.m. and you find out that the world is no longer the safe place you imagined.
As some attempt to evacuate the country, the U.S. is preparing for a potential refugee crisis.
So we are also working with European countries on what the needs are, where there is capacity.
In Washington, I'm Isabel Rosales.
North Dakota and Montana leaders are all calling for even tougher sanctions. Governor Burgum says he condemns the attacks in the strongest terms possible. Senator John Hoeven says it's a warning to all of Europe. Senator Kevin Cramer saying it's also a warning for China and Taiwan. Congressman Kelly Armstrong says the U.S. and its allies must stand with Ukraine. Montana Senator Steve Daines says, I'm praying for the people of Ukraine and condemn Putin's outrageous attack on their sovereignty and independence. He opposes sending U.S. troops, as does Congressman Matt Rosendale, who says it is our obligation to secure our nation and put the American people first, not send our sons and daughters to die overseas in a conflict that does not serve our national interests. Montana's Democratic Senator John Tester says Putin single-handedly started an unprovoked war that makes the world less safe, adding that he stands with Ukraine and backs U.S. support. North Dakota's Dem NPL Chair Patrick Hart says Russia doesn't rule the world and shouldn't bring us to the brink of global warfare again, saying U.S. and its allies must stand up to him. Let's turn it over to Henry Blakes now for a look at our forecast.
Conditions are gradually improving across the northern plains as Arctic high pressure finally begins to exit the region, and as that does, that's going to allow temperatures to get closer to normal over the next few days. We still have a southerly wind, however, but tomorrow our wind will become a bit more westerly, and that will help increase our temperatures. But still at this time, all counties north and east of the Missouri River do remain under a wind chill advisory until tomorrow morning. Hopefully that will be the last of the wind chill advisories for quite some time. Williston, I'm still thinking will likely only get into the 20s below zero for our wind chills, but still cold enough for you to need your coat. Sub-zero, single digits, and teens are going to be our morning lows as we start out our Friday, but you'll notice that we quickly increase into the teens and 20s region-wide as we go into your Friday afternoon. I'll have the rest of your forecast in a few minutes.
Thank you so much, Henry. Now, these new sanctions against Russia could have significant impacts here at home. Oil prices surged overnight, passing $100 a barrel for the first time since 2014. Gas prices could also jump another 5 to 15 cents in the coming weeks. Some say focusing on domestic oil production would help stabilize inflation.
We're all going to pay more at the pump. Quick spikes, long spikes, short spikes like this above $100. If we're doing our share and we're working at it, producing energy in this country, I think we can avoid these types of spikes.
Ness says a stable price of $70 to $80 a barrel is the most beneficial for North Dakota oil producers. Now, President Biden has said he will dip into the strategic petroleum reserves again if necessary. This comes just days after he again halted drilling permits on federal lands.
It's like they'll do anything to drive up the cost of American energy so that they create an incentive for people to invest in something other than American energy.
Others add there's consequences to handing that to Putin.
Russia holds a significant portion of global oil production in its hands. Should the situation escalate, it's not impossible that Russia may use oil as a weapon.
Especially since the sanctions did not include banks that handle Russian oil and gas transactions. More than ever, Senator Daines is now pushing Congress to pass his Smart Energy Act, saying it requires President Biden to immediately restart oil and gas leasing on federal lands. Now, oil and gas isn't the only industry affected by the attack. Joel Crane tells us how it's disrupting the operations of several North Dakota companies that conduct business with Ukraine and Russia.
Howard Dahl is the co-founder and CEO of Amity Technology in Fargo. He's spent a lot of time in Ukraine and Russia.
Right now, it's I just feel deep sorrow for Ukrainian friends. I can't even imagine what they're thinking about today.
Howard has been to Ukraine 93 times since 1992. Amity has sold thousands of pieces of farm machinery to companies in both Ukraine and Russia. Sugar beet harvesters are just one of the types of agricultural equipment Amity has shipped to Eastern Europe. Howard says Russian tanks and troops invading a neighboring country is cause for concern.
I've been on the phone with both Titan Machinery and RDO this morning. We're all concerned about the employees we have over there and just the complete chaos and uncertainty as to what lies ahead.
North Dakota officials say Russia's invasion of Ukraine could have a huge impact on North Dakota companies that have satellite operations in the region.
They know that the benefit of having that facility there provides economic stability, activity for that region, for that community. This has a ripple effect all the way back through the whole system.
Howard says he'll be keeping a close eye on the situation as it unfolds.
My greater concern is for the people right now. But of course, we have to be responsible for our businesses and protect the well-being of the business.
Amity Technology has around 10 employees in Russia and Ukraine. Reporting from Bismarck, I'm Joel Crane for your news leader.
Of course, the invasion will also affect North Dakota farmers. Ukraine grows a lot of grain, and Howard wonders whether planting season there will go on as usual. Wheat prices have already risen as Ukraine is a top exporter of the crop. The stocks also went on a roller coaster ride today. All three indices dropped dramatically this morning, but closed in the green. If the stocks do plummet, North Dakotans could suffer.
If a major European war were to disrupt stock prices, we would not be surprised if that would cause an economic downturn globally. However, I think the economy has capacity to adjust itself, so maybe this is not something long-term.
North Dakota, along with the rest of the world, is also on high alert for potential cyber attacks. Experts say individuals are at risk as well as hospitals, schools, and other companies that have a wealth of information. A professor at Bismarck State College says hackers go for the low-hanging fruit, so increasing security is always a benefit.
We may not have the big companies that would be the juicy targets for the attackers, but every single device that's on the internet is nothing but a number. So if you're an attacker from some foreign country, do you care whether this number is in North Dakota or Washington, D.C.? It's a device to be attacked, potentially to be compromised.
C recommends updating operating systems and using antivirus programs and firewalls for any device with a chip. High schoolers in Williston are learning about the Ukraine crisis in real time. Problems of Democracy students watched live news reports today discussing why this happened and what could happen next. They say it's important to keep up with current events.
It's a very scary situation, and it's something that I believe a lot of people should be aware of, because it's just going to lead to it's just going to fall like dominoes. It's going to lead into something, and nobody really knows for sure what yet. So.
The students also discussed what political ramifications this could have for the United States. Now, as the U.S. responds to the Ukraine crisis, others argue there's still a crisis to address here at home, and that's securing our southern border. Montana Attorney General Austin Knudsen has joined his counterparts in 14 other states in calling for the resignation of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Knudsen says his decisions not to enforce basic immigration law have resulted in an effective stand-down order for Border Patrol and caused, in his own words, conditions at the border that are perhaps the worst they have ever been. He must resign. Well, in Bismarck, a murder trial is on hold again. Find out why when we come back.
You're watching the Night Report at 10, live on KUMV-TV, your news leader.